A couple people have asked me, how do you figure out the size of the shares that you want to buy? How do you figure out, how many shares you want to buy per trade, and how does that work out? How does that even equate? And one of the things that I do is I look at a stock, I look at kind of where the recent support is, I look for where it's bounced at, and I kind of figure out where my stop loss is going to be. So obviously, like looking at HTGM, had a couple scalps on HTGM just now, ended up buying down here in this 420 bounce up to that 445 area, and then had another bounce here. It came down to that 435, and then you can see it's bounced up here, plus it bounced up here above that 450 all the way up to 470. Real nice move there, and then came back, another pullback down to that 450 again, and then bounced up to 490. So what I'm looking at on these moves is I'm looking to see kind of where my stop loss is going to be, where, what's my risk tolerance. I'm trying to always aim for that 5% loss as being my maximum loss area. So using HTGM as an example, I'm looking at it as it's a $4 stock. If it drops 40 cents, that's almost 8 to 10% of a loss. So that's too much. I don't want to lose that much. So if I'm looking here, I'm looking to buy at 420, and I'm seeing, all right, so 20 cents lower, that $4 area, it kind of bounced at before. So that'll be kind of my stop area and kind of get out. If I'm buying here at 420, I'm probably even going to get out earlier at 415. So with my $2,000 account, my small account, I can buy up to 400 shares. Really, I can go a little bit bigger on the margin side if I wanted to, but playing it safe, if I'm not trying to margin out, if I just want to buy the cash amount that I have, I can buy at 400, 500 shares. So for sizing this trade, I'm buying 400 shares, and then I'm looking to keep that stop loss, that stop area 5% lower, looking for that next support area. The one thing you have to think about if you're buying these stocks, really the smaller stocks, if you look at like a dollar stock, if it moves 10 cents down, that's 10% loss. And a lot of these dollar stocks move really fast. So you don't want to buy, 10,000 shares of a dollar stock just because you can. Because if you buy 10,000 shares and it drops 10%, you're losing $1,000 right there. So you can't just buy the maximum amount of shares that you can buy with your buying power. So you need to really think about, kind of do the math and look at the max percentage that you're looking to lose. So on a dollar stock, if I'm only looking to lose 10%, I might only buy 1,000 shares. And that's normally what I do. I usually buy about 900, 800 shares on a dollar stock. And then obviously it's kind of per trade. I'm looking to see like how volatile a stock is, how much is jumping up and down. If it's jumping up and down a bunch, I'm going to obviously size in smaller. If it's been a nice steady gainer, has a lot of support, and it's been really bouncing well and looks like it's got a good support there on level 2, I can size in larger. But the big thing is really trying to figure out what's your maximum amount that you can lose. When you're going to buy your shares, if you're looking at this stock like HTGM, you have $2,000, you can say to yourself, I'll be okay if I buy 400 shares, because then if I lose 10%, that would be a 40-cent drop, which is, it's possible for sure. But am I going to let that 40-cent drop happen? Probably not, because I'm not going to buy the high. I'm not going to, chase this. So I'm looking for those support areas and making sure that there's a nice support below. So when I was buying here at that 420, like I said, I was looking for that support, and there was a support down to the $4 area. So obviously that $4 is a mental support as well. So if I'm buying at 420, I know I have plenty of room here. So the maximum loss I'm really looking at is about a 20-cent loss there if this does go down. It's easier to do on these stocks that have a little bit of that have slowed down after opening, and you have more of a chart to look at, and you have more resistance and support areas to see. It's harder in the morning when you get those big stocks that jump up really fast and then all of a sudden crash really fast. So you got to really think about that. Later on in the day, you kind of get these slower movers. You'll get big crashes, like obviously the guy who bought here at 490 is shitting his pants right now because it's now at 440 and it's dropping pretty fast on HTGM. So it's just blowing through support there. You can see if I would have bought here at 465 thinking it might be a pullback, and now it's going through that 450 support, I probably would have sold. If I did do that, I would have said, here's this 445 area. So that's like a 15-cent kind of loss in that area. So I obviously could have bought 500 shares and been safe there with only 3 to 5% loss. So the big thing is not just trying to figure out how many shares you can buy, but it's really figuring out what's the maximum loss that you want to lose on a trade. It's hard sometimes because when things are happening so fast, you just don't think about it enough, and you just kind of buy. You're just like, I can get 1,000 shares, I'll buy right now. And then you end up buying 1,000 shares, and all of a sudden it's dropping like crazy, and you're losing a ton of money. So you really have to try to figure out what's your maximum loss. How can you protect yourself. What's the risk versus reward? You don't want to buy, 10,000 shares of a stock that has a huge risk on it, obviously, because if it does drop, it's going to really hurt. Now you can say, oh, well, if I buy 10,000 shares and it goes up only 2 cents, I can make $200 profit on just 2 cents on a $1 stock. And yes, that's possible. But the problem is if it goes opposite, you can lose a ton more. So you really have to think and figure out what's your maximum loss and what are you comfortable with losing, and figuring out how to size in. And once you figure out your max loss kind of for that day with your account size and your buying power, then you really need to think for the rest of the day, I'm going to make sure that I'm only going to lose, 3% on each trade. That way my winners can add up faster and I get bigger profits. And if I do end up at the end of the day and I have a lot of losses, at least I won't be down huge because I was protecting myself and I was keeping my maximum loss always in range and checking that, and not overstanding myself into these big trades. When you're trading these small caps, you really have to be protective of your capital. You can't just go and buy tons and tons of shares just thinking that you can buy a bunch of shares. Just because you have the option to buy the bunch of shares on those small stocks, it doesn't mean you should. So make sure you're thinking about that. Make sure you're not just over leveraging yourself on every trade, just trying to get big winners, because the problem is not every trade is going to be a big winner. If you can get 3 or 4 decent sized winners and then keep your losses to 1 or 2 losses, you should at the end of the day end up profitable. If not, you'll have a couple of losses like me today and then add a couple of profits. I had a couple of big losses today and had some decent profits, and I'm going to end up at the day only down about $100 on the end of the day, with commissions and fees and stuff kind of eating into all that. But the big thing is focusing on your maximum loss and trying to figure out what you're comfortable with mentally, emotionally, and checking your account. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, make sure you subscribe. Got some more videos I'm working on, some more tips and ideas and things that I've been noticing in the market I think you guys will enjoy. Leave some comments if you enjoy the videos. If you don't like the videos, leave a comment anyway and tell me why you don't like them. Maybe I'll change it around and make it better. If not, sorry about you.